You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from Natural Green Lawn and Landscape Studios, brought to you by Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. As an American family insurance agent, Kim believes that there's much more to insurance than the policy itself. It's about providing you with dependable protection and services. Kim believes that trust and credibility can't be demanded. It can only be earned by what you say and what you do. Give her a call, 651-482-1598. It's time now for a message from the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. The MHA Minute is brought to you by Start to Finish Maintenance Contractors. Start to Finish provides 24-hour service for all your home, business maintenance needs. Call Start to Finish at 952-259-1219 for your home, for your business, for your peace of mind.
Did you know that the members of the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association, or MHA, provide over a quarter of the state's housing? That's housing for more than 1 million residents. The members of MHA agree to abide by a professional code of ethics, and they know that happy residents are key to a successful business. When you're out looking for your next apartment, remember that rental references are a two-way street. Before you rent, ask if the owner is a member of MHA. If not, ask why not, and tell them to visit mmha.com. That's two M's, mmha.com. If you're an owner or manager or even an accidental landlord, you owe it to yourself to learn how the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association, its classes, certification programs, resources, staff, and faculty can help you succeed. Don't be a good landlord. Be a great one. Visit mmha.com, mmha.com.
Well, we're going to talk about a speech that was delivered by the president just this last week. He was stressing the need for a new housing finance system. And he was saying, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac should be wound down through a responsible transition. People have seen that fail. A lot of the real estate bubble that we had and it popping, and the mess that we've had with properties going underwater, people owing more than the property was worth, people going into foreclosure, had to do with a lot of things that were happening because of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, because of requirements that the government was making in terms of lending. And so I understand that. I applaud that. However, the president said that he said even though there's a call to wind these things down, we need something else in its place. And, of course, part of the issue right now is you have the Senate that wants to be able to put in another GSE, which was basically a government-sponsored enterprise, another entity that's another Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac type of organization. The House on the other side is saying, well, yeah, we think that something ought to be provided, but it ought to be a non-government agency rather than a government agency. And so there's a little bit of people going back and forth. I would like to say that perhaps it could be better if government would allow the market to determine what happens as opposed to trying to control and push things. Some of the things that the president said this last week, some concerns to take a look at, and some of these are great notions, great intentions here, but I don't know that realistically that's what's going to happen. Number one, he said there needs to be more of a streamlined refinancing for borrowers with government-insured mortgages. What does that mean, to streamline refinancing? Well, if you've gone in for a mortgage, you know that it can be a hellacious process. There's paperwork after paper after paper and disclosure after disclosure. Where's that coming from, folks? Do you realize when I first bought a home in 1980, my first home, the purchase agreement was one page. The documents I signed at closing might have had my signature on maybe 10, 12 items. When my wife and I went to refinance one of our properties about a year ago, and with new mortgage and new lending requirements, there was 75 to 90 pages to all of the closing documents. Initials and signatures were well over 100, I bet you, if we signed once. And where's that coming from? I can tell you it's not coming from necessarily the lender. It's coming from the lender because they're concerned about the requirements that government's been pushing and placing on them. There's nothing streamlined about refinancing when the government gets involved. I think it would be better if they didn't get involved. When we took a look a few months ago at FHA recertification and quote unquote streamlining that process, what did they do? Well, streamlining meant that they took the same items, the same documents that were on 2 pages, and they put it back to back. So you had 1 page, 2-sided. That was streamlining. I kid you not. That was what they did and considered that streamlining. I don't think the government has an idea of what's involved in streamlining. Number 2, the requirement is they want to waive closing costs for borrowers who would refinance into shorter terms. And I'm thinking, really? Do you really even need to ask that? You know, folks, if you go to refinance a home or any property that you have, lenders are encouraging you to take less than a 30-year mortgage. And if you take less than a 30-year mortgage, what are you given as incentives for doing that? Well, number 1, you'll probably find a little bit of a lower interest rate. Number 2, you probably find some closing costs being waived. I don't think the government needs to be involved with this. That's already happening because the lender knows, hey, if someone's going to be more responsible and our liability is going to be for a less amount of time, we're going to reward them for that. That's the free market. That's how it works. That's what makes it very wonderful. For the government to say, well, this needs to happen by edict is unnecessary. It's already happening. And then the last thing, and I don't know that we have much time to talk about this today, it will be a topic of discussion at the State Fair, I guarantee you, and that is they want to expand eligibility for refinancing for those without government-backed mortgages by creating special programs. What is that? What is it that they're saying? I.e., read, we're going to have different lending practices. We need to expand eligibility. In other words, we need to relax the requirements that we've had. And I'm thinking to myself, isn't that how we got into all these problems to begin with? We ended up relaxing the requirements of what someone needed to be able to get a home. Why? Because, we're being discriminatory to them. We need to let them buy a home. And what did we do? We let them buy a home that they could not afford. And they were thinking, I'll just get an interest-only loan because in a couple of years, I'll just barely scrape by. The house will be worth more. I'll sell it. I'll have got some money, and now I'll be able to buy another home and be more relaxed. We're going back into the same thing, folks. Well, we'll talk about that, but we're out of time right now. So have a great rest of the Saturday. We look forward to having you here next week at the Minnesota State Fair on Where You Live.
I have been chosen. Farewell, my friend. I go on to a better place.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Tough to say goodbye.